All right, so this next lesson is going to take the trig, and now we're going to focus predominantly on word problems. So we're going to talk angle of elevation, angle of depression. So when we talk about both of those, they are only associated with right triangles. Okay, when we talk about an angle of elevation, that is the angle as you look up. So it's the angle of elevation. The angle of elevation is between the horizontal, which is the ground distance, and the hypotenuse, which is the line of sight. That is your angle of elevation. Now your angle of depression is downward. It's not inside the triangle. It's actually on the outside of the triangle. This is your angle of depression. But the awesome part about the angle of depression is because these two lines right here are parallel to each other, the angle of depression is actually equal to the angle of elevation. So if you have the angle of depression, you can put it right inside of the triangle itself. All right. So we are going to start off with, let's see here. I'm going to start actually off with number 2. So no matter what, you know you're starting with the right triangle. So do that. So you sight a rock climber on a cliff at a 32-degree angle of elevation. So 32 goes down here. The horizontal ground distance is 1,000 feet. So that's the bottom. Find the line of sight. So the line of sight is our hypotenuse. So according to the angle that we have, x is the hypotenuse. The 1,000 is next to it, so that's the adjacent side. So thinking SOHCAHTOA, that's cosine. So cosine of 32 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. I'm going to put this over 1, cross multiply, and what you're going to find is because the variable's in the denominator, you're actually going to, instead of ending up multiplying, you actually are going to have to divide here. So just be careful. So it's 1,000 divided by the cosine of 32, which is going to get you about 1179.2, and it's feet for a final answer. Okay, so you get feet. All right, so I'm going to do a couple more before I do one because one is actually a little bit tricky. I don't want to start off that way. All right, example 3. So a search and rescue team is airlifting people from the scene of a boating accident when they observe another person in need of help. If the angle of depression to this other person is 42 degrees, so angle of depression is outside the triangle, but because it's congruent with the angle of elevation, I can put it inside the triangle. The helicopter is 18 feet above the water. What is the horizontal distance? That's the ground distance from the rescuer to this person to the nearest 10th. So I am only focusing on the 42 that is in the triangle itself. So this guy right here. So according to that, I've got 18, which is my opposite, and x, which is my adjacent. So if I have opposite and adjacent, that's tangent. So tangent of 42 equals opposite over adjacent. My variable again is in the denominator. So when I cross multiply, I'm going to end up dividing when I isolate the x. So I get 18 divided by the tangent of 48. And that gets me about 19.99, but I'm being asked to round to the nearest 10th. So this 9 is going to round that 9 up to a 0. And you get about 20.0 feet for your final answer for that one. All right, number 4. So it says a lifeguard is watching a beach from a line of sight 6 feet above the ground. So first of all, don't get confused with line of sight. As soon as it says 6 feet above, we're going up and down. She sees a swimmer at an angle of depression of 8 degrees. So the 8 goes there and the 8 goes there. How far away from the tower is the swimmer? So the swimmer is down here in the water, and our tower is right here. So here is our x. We're looking for that. So that 8 degrees, I've got my opposite, and I've got my adjacent. So we're with tangent again. So tangent of 8 equals opposite over adjacent. Exact scenario we just had with the last example. I am cross multiplying, and then I'm dividing. And x comes out to being 42.7 feet for a final answer. All right, one more before we go back to the one on the front. So Sarah is flying a kite. She lets out 105 feet of string. So if you're letting out a kite, the string is going to go here. And anchors it to the ground. So our kite is up here. She determines the angle of elevation is 48 degrees. Find the height of the kite from the ground. So height goes right here. All right, so according to this, we've got 48. We've got the opposite side, and we have the hypotenuse. So if we have opposite and hypotenuse, that's sine. So the sine of 48 equals opposite over hypotenuse, proportion. And then just remember, you never put two numbers next to each other. So it's 105 times the sine of 48, which gets us about 78.0 feet for a final answer for that. All right, let's go back to number 1. So the reason I stopped with number 1 and didn't do that yet is there's an extra piece here. So it says Leah wants to see a castle in an amusement park. She sights the top of the castle at an angle of elevation of 38 degrees. She knows that the castle is 190 feet tall. If Leah is 5.5 feet tall, how far is she from the castle? So if she's standing here, this is how far she is from the castle, but the key is it's telling us she's 5.5 feet tall. So that also accounts over here. And if they're telling us that the full tower is 190, what you have to do is you have to figure out the difference with just that part, not including her height. So you have to do 190 minus the 5.5, which is 184.5 feet. So that was the extra piece there, so just be careful. So according to that 38, we've got opposite and we've got adjacent. So that's tangent. So the tangent of 38 equals opposite 184.5 over x, proportion, cross multiply, and again, the variable's in the bottom, so we're going to end up dividing in the end. So we get 184.5 divided by the tangent of 38, and you should get